The word Baal simply means Lord or owner, but in the ancient world, Baal was a Canaanite and Phoenician deity and god. Jesus calls the devil at one time Beelzebub, which is the phrase Baal-zebub. It was known to be the assistant to the devil. Baal was a god that was widespread during the time of the judges that gave the nation of Israel a hard time, and this god was a major threat to the worship of Yahweh. Baal was widespread in Israel during the reign of Ahab. He was a god that looked half bull, half man, and was considered the god of fertility. Historically, Baal was the god considered the most powerful of all gods, and his supremacy was so unquestionable. Apparently, according to Canaanites, he defeated El and had associations with the sun and thunder. Some worship Baal as the storm and star god. He is usually depicted using a lightning bolt to defeat enemies and produce crops. Archaeological studies have tried in depth to explore the origin and history of this prominent god that was so rampant in the Bible. It has been retrieved about Baal way back from the 2nd millennium BC, and it was recorded that the spread of Baal caught into the air in Egypt in 1400 BC. There were many practices about the Baal worship like child sacrifice, which is why God especially gave a strict law against this act among Israelites. The study tells us even as the Canaanite religion waned, Baal took on a new role as Zeus in the ancient Greek pantheon. There are a lot of facts about this heathen god because it was major pagan worship in the Old Testament, and as it was mentioned earlier on, it was a major snare to the children of Israel. First, we see Hezekiah's son rebuild the shrines to Baal and the Canaanite goddess Asherah that Hezekiah's father destroyed. 2 Kings 21 verse 3. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah's father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. Baal was a demon that was worshipped by foreigners, but was imbibed into Israel during the time of the judges. The worship of Baal was so seductive among the Israelites because the worship of Baal just always has a way of infiltrating the camp of the Israelites. There was nothing positive about Baal in the Bible. This god was a major threat to the worship of Jehovah in the Bible. And anytime Israel go astray from worshiping Jehovah to the worship of Baal, they always fell prey to the hands of Assyrians and Midianites, especially in the book of Judges. Baal worship was rooted in sensuality and involved ritualistic prostitutions in the temples, usually the use of firstborns for sacrifices. Jeremiah 19 verse 5 to 6. They have built also the high places of Baal, to burn their sons with fire for burnt offering unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that this place shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Iman, but the valley of slaughter. Various parts of the Gentile nation worship Baal in different methods. Many sought Baal in the time of drought and famine to bring rain for their harvest of crops. Talking about the function and the ability of Baal, we will find more of it from Uganet, the ancient tablet, than from the Bible. From the temples of Baal, Shaman, Palmyra, Syria, gods from Britannica, some facts about this universal god are found to be very interesting. There are tablets uncovered from 1929 at Uganet in northern Syria that gave a lot of information about Baal. These ancient stones about the mythology of Canaan, Baal was also regarded as the god of life and fertility that barren women sacrifice to get their babies for their womb. Stories were told in the ancient stones about how that Baal was bound in battles with Mot, the god of death, and that if Baal has triumphed, a 7-year cycle of fertility would ensue, but if it was the opposite, the whole land would be subject to years of drought and famine. Myth says that Baal revived this divine kingship from Yamin, the sea god. Stories are also told in the ancient stones that Baal persuaded Asherah to get his palace and the god of art and craft. Cotha built a palace for him. Baal is also the son of Dagon, the Philistine god that was brought down by the Ark of Covenant in 1 Samuel 5 verse 1-5. When the Philistines took the Ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early in the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hand were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore, neither the priest of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod until this day. The most catching story about Baal was actually in the story of Elijah. First, the words of prophecy were pronounced by the prophet about no rain nor dew for 3.5 years, which even Baal was put to fight from his reign in Israel. Ahab the king at the time was not only fooled by his wife Jezebel, but also by the idea of Baal until during the years of drought and famine. The prophet Elijah again challenges Baal through his prophet, because at the time people were searching their children so that they could be sustained in the famine of Baal. In the battle to see whose God is God, either Yahweh or Baal, Baal was silent for hours when his prophet cried out to him to bring fire from heaven. But when Elijah stepped in a short prayer, the Lord Yahweh answered by fire, and again Baal was kept to shame. Baal was a principality in the highest rank of devils to Satan. He is always trying to counterfeit the true God of Israel. He attacks marriages and covenant. Baal seeks to get God's people to spiritually divorce from God and enter into a covenant with him. It is believed that this spirit of Baal is at work, and that is why there are many divorces in the USA. He is a covenant-breaking spirit. He is also known as the principal king of hell, ruling over the caste and the infernal powers. It is regarded to be the first of the 77 spirits of King Solomon, and happened to govern 66 to 250 legions of demons. These demons is seen in the teaching of signs and granting invisibility to 250 legions of spirit. Baal was either compared to Satan or considered his main assistant. Occultists who invoke this demon become invisible and unstoppable. According to some sources, he can make people satanically wise. Baal was said in the old grammar stories to have appeared in form of man, cat, toad, or the appearance of 3 creatures. He is also associated with the Mesopotamian god Adad. Stories tells us about the defeat of Lotan or Leviathan, which was the god of sea, by Baal. Baal was regarded as a god of a sailor and was thought to bring protection to those who have braved the waters. He was regarded as the mightiest and undisputable deity because of his various expression of him in the Mediterranean. Phoenician inscriptions also refer to him as winged Baal, suggesting his ability to fly, and also the Baal of arrows, suggesting the choice of weapons. After many punishments from God on the Israelites for going astray from him to worship Baal, the Israelites began to realize that Baal was not helping them, but making them turn their back on God. It was because of this reason the Lord instructed Gideon to destroy all the altars of Baal. We are told that God told Gideon to take the pole and altar and use them as a burnt offering. And from there we see the conflict between Yahweh and Baal. It was said that because Baal was depicted as having horns, it is said that Gideon burning the altar of Baal is symbolic of Gideon destroying and removing Baal from Israel, or perhaps sacrificing Baal in the favor of a more powerful god. Some of the Israelites were still unwilling to stop their worship of Baal, so they sought to kill Gideon because he destroyed their altar of worship to Baal. But Joash, Gideon's father, comes to his defense and says that if Baal is so powerful that he can stop Gideon himself, there was a story during the time of Prophet Samuel when the Ark of Covenant was returned to God and the Israelites sought protection from God. Samuel said to them to put away every foreign god, which Baal was chief of all these gods, and they should seek the Lord their God as their salvation.